Right, welcome to the channel. We are building video game with Love2d and Lua. It's a top-down adventure, Game Boy style, Link's Awakening inspired game here, and we've been working on getting this Game Boy UI working on touch devices. So I can switch over here and show what's up on mobile here. So yesterday we got our buttons being detected for the D-pad. So right now we aren't moving the character with the touches just yet. We're still only doing that based on arrow key detection, but we'll be doing that shortly. So today we'll be adding an A button and a B button and probably a start and select so that we have all of our buttons as well as touch detection for it. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. And then what's cool is we've got, multiple input handling too for the different touches, and they don't interfere with one another, so that you can do, you can walk left and cast a spell or whatever. So we'll be trying to add a couple more buttons, and then I'll show what I've been working on, which is a deployment of this game to the web so that people can go to my website and play it in their browser or on their phone or on their computer, whatever they want. They can just go and play the current build. So that's what's on the docket today. Let's get going here. One thing I do need to do is if we touch and drag off screen, the touch X position becomes nil, and then we try to compare with a nil value and then we crash. So we'll have to add a little thing in here that prevents that crash. So we'll just say that if the touch X position is equal to nil, or the Y position is equal to nil, then we need to not only return false, but, and I don't know what I can change these to that makes sense. Like, would we say that, because we have to give the touch, since the touch still technically exists at this point, we have to update its Y so that it's X and Y so that it's not technically rendering. So I don't know if I like this, but we can just say, hey, the touch gets set to be off screen by 10 pixels, and then we no longer collide. And then since we switch this flag here, we'll remove the very touch on that frame. We'll remove it anyway, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. But this should fix the error I'm having where we crash if our touch drags off the screen upwards or downwards. And then we need to add some buttons. So how this works is we have this touch detection class, very simple in that it's just got an X and a Y to place it, and then a color just so we can see when it's pressed, because if it's pressed, we render a little rectangle at its location to kind of signify, okay, it's there. For right now, I'm just gonna also just render the button no matter what, because in order for it to be pressed, we'd have to detect a touch, and in order for that to happen, it'd have to be on a touch device, which means I'd have to commit and then rebuild and then deploy it on my phone. So I'm just gonna print it up so we know they're in the right location. Then once we get them all in the right location, we can trust and then test that our self.pressed will work the same for our A, B, start, and select buttons as it does for our D-pad. So let's see if we just render this. Yeah, it's rendering all the colors for the D-pad at once here, and we can't do anything with it because of the there's a no touch detection on the desktop. It's only on the mobile and stuff. So let's actually set the color here to maybe green or something. Okay, sweet. So let's go about and give us an A and B button. We'll go right now. All our buttons and stuff is in our main. We'll have to turn that out into like a mobile module or something, because I don't want this stuff bogging down our main.lua, but we need to give it an X of, you know, we have to kind of mess around with this and see what location is kind of decent, but we know it might be, let's just do D-pad Y times 2 or something and just see where that gives us. And then we'll call this either A or B, but we added this touch detection object into our D-pad, and our D-pad is just a table that holds all our touch objects. And if we look what the D-pad is doing, well, this is all our old stuff. We check, we actually flush every button to be not pressed right off the bat, and then we check for collision and go from there. And then we render every D-pad button. If it's pressed, well, actually, technically we render it regardless, and then we only actually render something if it is pressed. So we go ahead and render every object anyway, which, you know, we don't have to do it that way. We could do it only if it's pressed, go ahead and render it. But the render function itself for all these buttons are only showing up if they're pressed. So let's see where our button is that we placed it in. I don't see it. I don't see it. Touch detection. Let's start out. For example, if we were to say that the placement X and Y is 0, 0, should be at the top left. So we should see green at the top left, which we do. So we need to just give this a position that matches up with our A button. So let's say that the X position is our, what, virtual width? Minus, I don't know, 40. Okay, and then we'll shift it down, and it'll be... virtual height. Virtual height. There's a virtual, for the Game Boy position, we have a virtual height GB, I think. And we can divide that by 2, so it's like at the middle of the screen, right? And then we can just adjust it. So that's getting close. So we need to put it just over that A button. So I don't know of a way. I guess we can just put like magic numbers in here. Because like we're rendering to a virtual resolution, like we set a virtual resolution. So if as long as we don't change the UI, the location for this stuff won't change. So I guess I don't care that much that there'll be magic numbers. So let's see. It needs to go a little to the right and about a whole button worth down. So we can minus maybe 35 instead, and then we need to add maybe a whole button width, which is the D-pad width, which probably shouldn't have named it diagonal, but that's okay. Okay, that's looking real close. A little bit to the right, a little bit down. This is so gross. It's like, it's okay. Like, this is just in the, this only gets called once, so it is kind of gross. But it's not like it's updating every frame or anything. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's set the transparency a bit so we can make sure it's kind of centered there. So we can set the color to be green, but with little transparency. So red gets 0, green gets full green, 255, 255. Blue is 0, and then maybe like a 100 on the alpha. And then we can see, okay, it lines up pretty good. So let's try to get our B button. And then we'll just give us a B button here. Now, this is a decent starting point, but this would need to be more to the left, and this needs to be maybe 3 button worths shifted. I don't know. Oh, we were close. Y maybe times 2 here. Okay, that's looking close. We need to go left, well, like 1 pixel, and down 2 pixels. Okay, that's looking pretty good for A and B. So let's maybe up 1 on the Y. Okay, that's looking good. My water is shut off at the moment, so we are kind of stuck with bottles of water. Okay. So let's get our start and select buttons. I'm excited that this is going to be working on my website. I just got it working on my website today. It's just that the touch detection doesn't actually move the character. You can see that you're pressing the buttons, but it doesn't actually move the character. So we'll have to rehaul our input system in order for that to move our character, because right now it's only based on the arrow keys. So let's do a height or a width of... Let's just put it right in the center, right? And then a height of, we'll just put the height minus maybe 20 or something. 25. And we'll see where that goes for the start button. Not quite. We need to move it left quite a bit. Okay, little to the right, little to the down. You know, I guess a good way of doing this in the future would be to render a button-sized square at the mouse position, and then print up the mouse position to screen, and then place it and line it up visually, and then look at what the numbers are and just type in the numbers like that instead of this guessing game. I think that's how I would do it if we weren't almost done with it, right? Like, because yeah, just like this guessing game of like pushing and pushing and pulling by X amount of pixels. Okay, that's looking close. Sweet. Okay. Yeah, maybe left like 1 pixel or so. And then I don't know if we want these to be smaller buttons either, because like I don't want you to accidentally hit select or start. And also there is, I guess one thing to maybe think about too is like, does the button trigger upon the press or upon the release? Because if you just drag your finger across and it collides with this select button, it would, you know, if it's on press, it would pull up the select menu or whatever just by dragging your finger across when you didn't necessarily touch on it. Because I know sometimes I'll accidentally touch something that I didn't want to do, so I'll like drag my finger off of it and then let go, and then it won't submit that input. So that's something to maybe think about. Maybe we'll, you know, that's something to maybe test and see how necessary that might be. Let's get our select button on. Sweet. All right, we got our buttons. So we can stop rendering them regardless of them being pressed now, make a little build commit, and then pull it up on our phone and test that the detection is also working for these guys. Now, I think we're giving them all the same color, which is just the bottom right color, which I don't remember what color that was. It's like a dark blue. Let's give it the top left color, so it's that yellow, so it's easier to see. So we'll just give it the top left color for all of these. Okay. Now this will only change the color once they're touched, which we have to put on the phone in order to check. So what we'll do is we'll go into the render and we'll stop rendering it regardless and only render it if it's pressed. And then I guess it's ready to test. Let's make sure that our full screen is set to true so that our mobile can size to our full screen. And then we'll have to figure out how to also lock orientation, because if you try to rotate, the game gets really screwed up. So I think that's like a per build thing. I don't know if I can do that here in Love. I don't know. Oh, and you know what? This needs to be true. Okay. So let's do our little commit here. It'll be called add A, B, start, select buttons. Okay, let's go over to our Mac. Okay, so here's the process, right? It's we pull our changes, which I'm gonna remove the old build so we don't accidentally have that. Great. Get pull. Okay, we got our changes. So let's zip up our game into an executable. And then let's take that game. So all we have to do to get it on the phone is take the .love that we just made right there and drag and drop it onto our Love build from Xcode, and then we can see it. Okay, moment of truth here. Yes. What's up, K-chan? Check it. We just got A and B buttons working. And start and select buttons working. Sweet, sweet, sweet. This was honestly all I was hoping to get done today, so I'm glad it was smooth. What I want to do is try to deploy this to my website, hopefully at, you know, a decent resolution. I don't know if we can do a resize based on the person's screen resolution. What I'm thinking is we first, you know, we do a love window get dimensions, and we test if the width is greater than our virtual width. And if that would mean like it's on a desktop computer, and if it's greater than a virtual width, then we would want to set our maximum width to be the virtual width. However, if we do the love.window.get dimensions and the window width is smaller than our virtual width, then we want to set our virtual width to be equal to our screen width, so that mobile devices can play the game, or actually when people go to load the game on the website, it would get their dimensions, and if it's smaller than that virtual resolution, it would set its width to be the phone's width. That's the goal. I don't know if Love can do that in the conf or anything. We might have to use some JavaScript in order to get that info. I'm not entirely sure though. But I think for now, what I'll try to do is like, I'll get the width of an iPhone SE and I'll set the maximum virtual width to be that. And then hopefully that works on a bunch of different mobile devices for the time being, and then we can figure out the proper scaling, because our push library is handling the scale to the mobile port, where it just puts it, you know, it'll resize it to the current phone screen, but for the web it's different. So I'll show you guys what it's like to deploy this to my website, which I think will be really cool. So I'm trying to think, we need to take full screen off for the website build. We would need to set the max width to be an iPhone SE width or whatever. So let's see if we can do that. I'm gonna Google real quick what iPhone SE width even is. Looks like it is 750. Oh, that's an iPhone 6. Well, I guess that's fine. Maybe, 640 is what I'm seeing here. Okay, the Firefox browser says it's 375, but that sounds too small. I guess let's try 375 and see how it looks. But the tricky thing is, yeah, we want to, if it's on desktop, we don't want to limit it to 375, but if we're testing it on the phone, I guess it's okay to maybe try to lock it in there, and then we can worry about the adaptive scaling and try to figure that out. So let's go into our, first thing I'm going to do is remove this old build so I don't accidentally use it. And then we want to do in our main, we want to turn full screen off. And we also want to, if it's not in full screen anymore, then it's going to be rendered to the virtual width, which looks fine here, like on mobile and stuff, or on desktop, but on mobile it does not look so fine. So maybe we'll just cut it in half and see what that looks like on mobile, and then we can kind of tweak from there. So actually, this is... If we go into our constants, I believe we have a window width set by a scale factor. Okay, so let's just do our scale factor down by 1 resolution. So this will be 2 times Game Boy resolution. Let's see. Yeah, smaller. Okay, so this is what we'll try to do. A scale factor of 2 for the mobile, I guess just the web deployment, and we'll see what it looks like on desktop and see what it looks like on mobile, and then we will kind of compare. So we've got full screen turned off. We've got the right resolution to test. So let's go ahead and try to build this for the website. So I'll show you guys how this is working. So we're in our repo with a main.lua. What we're going to do is zip it up as a .love. That gives a little love executable. Now I'm using this tool called Love.js. So I think Tanner Rogalski made this project, and all you have to do is we'll take that love build we just zipped and we'll put it in our Love.js folder. And then all we have to do is run love.js, give it the title of our zip, which is mobile.love, and we'll call it Tashio Web. Okay, now it just made this folder, Tashio Web, with a couple of different things. It's got some WebAssembly, it's got some Love JavaScript, it's got the game JavaScript and data, as well as a web page for it to deploy to. But you can't just view it. You can't just view it in your browser there without actually running a server for it. So if we wanted to see what that looks like, we could do a Python server on port 8000 and pull open what it looks like. So we'll go to localhost 8000, and it looks like I'm in the wrong directory. We have to CD into the web folder. So I'll quit this. We'll CD into Tashio Web. And then we'll run it here. Python HTTP server. And we'll try it right here, localhost 8000. Cool. So that's what it would look like on the web. It's not actually on the website just yet, but it's, you know, it's registering the inputs, it's doing the particle systems, it's doing the sounds even. And, you know, we got our loot music mini game and stuff on there. So it looks to me like it's all working, right? So and what's cool is the touch is actually working on this as well. So let's try to get this actually deployed to my website. So how would we do that? Well, I've got this I've got these WebAssembly files and the index HTML and this new compiled .love, and I have a deployment set up here. So I have a findingfocus.productions domain, and what we'll do is we'll just delete the old stuff that's in there, We'll delete the mobile.love, the WebAssembly, the game data, but we'll keep the index HTML and the CSS because all we want to change is the game's content, not the styling. So I'm going to come in here and delete this. And then we will import all the new files from our Tashio web files, or from our folder. So we're going to copy not the index HTML or the theme, but everything else. We're going to copy that into my productions folder, which I should probably pin to my sidebar. Get productions, we'll pin it right there. So we want all of this. Copy, paste it in here. Okay. And then, this isn't on the website yet. We have a server here. We have a web server where I'm hosting my websites. So if we SSH into it, I can show a little bit about what it looks like. If we go into the Nginx configuration, that's the web server. We have a couple of different sites available. Now, if we go into the productions website, we can see that all it is we're just telling Nginx server, say, hey, we have a folder called var www productions HTML. This is our deployment folder. So this is where we need to upload the files we just saved on our local device, upload it to this folder, and this web server is just serving whatever's in this folder. And then there's some SSL stuff, so we have the HTTPS redirect. So all we've got to do in here is take these files that we changed and deploy these to my server. And with any luck, okay, we had no fail, so let's try it. So look, instead of localhost, now we go to Finding Focus Productions. And you know what? This is an issue I've been having when I don't do it in a private window, since I'm hosting multiple websites on the same server. Only on Firefox, if we're not in a private window, will it mess up like that. But this is live on the website now, already deployed. So even if you were to pull out your phone right now or go on your desktop and go to findingfocus.productions, you can play the current build of the game with the arrow keys, the space bar, L for the loot system, 1, 2, 3, 4 for the frets, U, I, O, P for the strings. If you hold 5, you get some debugging info. And it would just be playable. So I think that's super cool. Let's see what it looks like on the phone and see if the scale factor of 2 is decent. Oh my god, you guys, it's working. I mean, it's still, it's a little taller than I would like, but this is on mobile right now. And oh my gosh, look at that. The touch is working. This is sweet. This is on my phone, on my website right now. That's so cool. So yeah, like I said, we can't actually move the character yet, because all the character movements is tied to the keypad input, and that's really complicated because we're actually doing a lot of things with that, because we have to keep track of which direction is currently being held, or how many are being held, if they're contradictory inputs, when they were released and everything. So it's like there's a lot of lines of code that touches. But this is really sweet. Yeah, this scale factor of 2 is almost perfect, I think, for this. We can't quite get the start and select button on screen. But yeah, so Katron, you should try this. You should try to go on your phone or on desktop and test it out yourself and make sure. I mean, it's working, right? It's on the website. It seems to be working. And then we'll be able to get, we'll be able to tie in the actual character input based on the touch detection, as well as the RGB. It's the right arrow keys, the arrow keys instead of WASD, because I'm weird, but it's the arrow keys to move, spacebar to use your magic. It's enter to read a sign. Only the first 2 signs here are readable. So like, if we're here, only these 2 signs at the very beginning are readable, but it's enter to read a sign, and I have to, change all this stuff to be more Game Boy friendly. So like, this will be an A input instead of an enter, or like, and then L to toggle the loot. And then once you're in loot mode, it's IUIOP for the strings. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different frets. And then 5, holding 5 toggles some debugging info. And then it's just that we can't, on mobile, you can't control the character just yet. But how cool is that? In order to deploy to the website, all we got to do is upload the new Love.js files. It was just 5 files. So we just do a quick build, we deploy those 5 files, and then it's live on the website. So it's like we could, depending on how each episode goes for the stream, if we're at a decent spot, we can be like, hey, let's go do the deployment real quick and then deploy it to the website, and people can play that night's episode of the game on the website right there. So that's going to be big. And I'm assuming it's going to take a couple of days to rehaul our input system, because we have to change a lot of things. We have to change, we have to turn our loot playing into Game Boy friendly inputs, because right now we're using 4 keys on the right hand and 4 keys on the left, but on Game Boy you only have the 4 D-pad and the A and B buttons. So it would be weird to make the start and select like other frets that you can play. So we might limit, I might have to change the tuning of the strings so that we can just do we would have less overlap, because right now we do have some overlap with the loot strings. There's a little bit of overlap. It's findingfocus.productions, Katron. If it works. I was trying to get, I had some problems with the Nginx server today about remapping the WW and getting the HTTPS certificate, but it should work at findingfocus.productions. And if it brings you to my art website, then I really have to figure that out, because if I do that in this browser, it brings me to my art website, because I think I'm hosting 5 websites on the same server. So see, I go to Finding Focus Productions and it loads my art website instead of the game. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. It only does it in Firefox from what I can tell, and if I do a WW, it works fine. So I don't know why it does that. I blame my lack of Nginx experience and hosting 5 websites on the same server. But yeah, so it's live on the website right now. It's just that, inputs don't. Inputs on your desktop will work on the website, but touch inputs on mobile don't work quite just yet. Cool. So Chrome works for you, Katron? That's good. Yeah, Chrome. And what's weird, are you in is it 30 FPS for you in Chrome? Because on my end, Chrome loads it at 30 FPS, not 60. But every other operating system I tried would do 60. And then I'm having some other issues where it's like, we're not centering the canvas on Safari or Chrome, but on Firefox, it's centering the canvas. But then on Firefox, we're getting some like aberrations here in the pixels, but that's only on Firefox. So I don't know. It's like there's weird trade-offs on every different browser, but you know, I might check it on Edge at some point or something and see if it's weird on Edge, as much as I hate Edge. But the mobile looks pretty good, because on mobile here, it's this number right under our hearts right here, Katron. Right here, the number right here. That's going to be the FPS. So it tries to stabilize at 60, which is good. But Chrome, I had noticed, was, at least on desktop, was only at 30 FPS. Okay. And then does it kind of, is it try to like stabilize at 60? Because mine's fairly stable. But also we don't have the particle systems going. But see, this is what I'm really excited about, that we can handle, you know, walking left and casting a spell, like doing multiple stuff at once. And then I'm not too worried about people accidentally coming down here and hitting start select. It does feel out of the way. So this is pretty sweet. You know, scale factor of 2 is looking pretty good. I don't really like that, at least on my tiny iPhone SE. If you scroll to where that's at the top, we can't touch the start. Well, we can technically touch the start and select buttons down here, but you can't see it with the URL kind of coming in there. Man, this is so cool. This is so cool. Like, I spent so much time trying to figure out how to do a Love build on a tiny Game Boy-like device. Like, I bought this little Game Boy handheld device thing to try to deploy it to a handheld pocket Game Boy so that I can show people my game. But now, if you've got freaking internet, you can go to my website and play it. So like that, I'm just so happy with that. You know, we'll have to, it'll be huge once we're moving on screen, because then, you know, I can probably link to this site off my main website and just say like, hey, if you want to play what I'm working on, go hit up the main website. And this domain isn't the final domain. You know, I'll probably get a special Tashio domain for it. This I have a findingfocus.productions domain that I just had nothing on at the moment, so I just deployed it there. But this is sweet. So the difference with like touch and keyboard is, on keyboard we're tracking, you know, if up is pressed, then if left is pressed, then we're gonna apply that route to scaling to modify our velocity appropriately. But here, you know, it's not that it would go diagonal if you touch these two. It would go diagonal. Well, I guess it would also go diagonal if you touch these two, but it would also go diagonal if you touch the diagonal one. So, wow, this is really cool. I feel like it's going to be a ton of headache to get the input system rehauled for the touch device without breaking the other system. We have to rehaul the other system for the keys. I don't know what the best way to do that is. Like, I don't know if... Because right now we're doing it upon like a, you know, if the key is down, and then we've got a bunch of different stuff like multiple input handling. If it holds contradictory inputs, we don't do anything. We're changing the state of our character sprite depending on if you are idle or walking, and which frames you're at changes depending on how soon you've pressed it from an idle. So there's like all kinds of stuff going on that's going to be tough to change this system, but I'm sold on converting it to a Game Boy game so that we can deploy it on the web like this and have it based on touch controls, so that it'll still work on desktop with the arrow keys and full screen, and you won't have the Game Boy UI. And then maybe if we want, we can add a UI. We can add a Game Boy overlay to toggle your full screen Tashio into a full screen Game Boy UI, but you can still use the the keyboard on desktop. So if people like the look of the Game Boy here, that they can toggle that on desktop. But then if you're on mobile, it just defaults to that mode anyway, so that people on smart devices can come in here and just play by touching. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I'm sold on converting it. We'll have to change all our loot system and probably all the loot strings and stuff, but I think we're at a good spot in the game's development where it's okay to spend a little more time to prioritize this, because now that, you know, like the tough thing about this is, like, you know, if we're ready to ship and then we're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we want to add a Game Boy, and we didn't do it yet, it'll screw us up because we've developed all the loot system with multiple keys in mind, instead of the limitation of the Game Boy, which I think is a good one to kind of agree to now. We'll like lock it in now. It has to be 2 buttons and 4 directions, or actually 8 directions. So maybe we can change some loot playing depending on which, you know, if you're holding diagonal or not, you know. So I don't know. We'll have to brainstorm how we can change the loot system to make more sense with the D-pad and 2 buttons. But this is worth it. Just the fact that we can just deploy it right now to the website and anyone can play, that's the move, you know. No one has to download the engine. No one has to figure out how to unzip the file and drag and drop onto the Love engine to play. They just go to the website and play. That's the way to do it. I don't know if sound is coming in on touch or on mobile, because the only thing that's triggering sound. Oh, and that's weird. Where are our NPCs? Our NPCs aren't even here. That's weird. Did our NPCs just disappear at some point? But yeah, I'm curious if sound works on mobile. So maybe I'll do a little test of that and see if that's working. Because that is a big factor too. If the loot music sound isn't working on mobile, then that's kind of a big deal, right? So it's working on desktop at least. So I've got, but yeah, mobile WebAssembly, I don't know if it can play the audio. We'll have to test. I mean, it's tough. There's a lot to. You know what? Let's try to test it. Let's just try to test it right now, because this will affect a lot of things. You know, if audio doesn't work on mobile, I still think we would do the Game Boy version. It wouldn't be the experience, you know, because there's a lot of audio supposed to be going on in this game. So let's see. I think the easiest way to do this is we set up a looping sound already. So we can just go ahead and turn that on and then deploy it again. So I think in the loot, where is it? I think it's in the loot class. Loot string. No, it's maybe it's in the scene. Bass notes, that's what it's called, bass notes. So bass notes are the notes that are kind of playing in the background once you play the correct first sequence of notes, so that we can play more complex songs on top of the bass notes, kind of like a looping station, right? So you'll play the first 4 notes and then the loop, and then you play more complex melodies on top of the loop. So we have a thing called bass notes, and I think if we just search bass notes, we'll find we turn them off, but we do have, we import them, we instantiate them. So how do we play them? I think the thing is, the bass notes is just a holding of the string. It's a string of what note it is. So if we look at our, I want to say maybe dependencies, we have strings titled, where are they? Right here. See how these are titled the notes? Yeah, let's just do something real simple here. We'll just loop the spellcast sound and redeploy and then test it. So we'll just go to our main here. All we have to do, I think it's different now that we're using a different sound library, but I think all we have to do is in update, say go to our global sounds table, which is what? Sounds? No. We were just there. It's just sounds spellcast. So we'll go. We'll say sounds at index spellcast. And then this is where we would set looping. I think this is different now that is in our push library, or our slam library. Shoot, yeah. Let me look this up, because I know slam allows us to play sounds before the sound has ended. So if we loop it and then play it, it'll literally sound like the sound is playing every 60 times a second. So slam sound loop Lua. Let's see. Would we loop it? We would set looping in the load and then play a local instance of it. Yeah, I mean, we can do that. Yeah, we can just say if A is pressed, we just play our sound. So let's do that. We've got detection for things being pressed. So if we look at which touch detection object is our A button, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. D-pad at index 9 is our A button. So all we'll do is in our update, in our main here, we'll do this. We'll say we have to, you know, it has to be after we check if the thing was pressed. So it'd be after this. And we would say if D-pad at index, I already forgot it, index 9? If that button is pressed, then we'd go ahead and play from our global sounds table the index of whatever sound we want, spellcast, :play. So if D-pad 9 is pressed, we'll go ahead and play that sound, and we'll see if that works on mobile. Hey, what up, Salto? How's it going, dude? Yeah, I'm not so sure. It's tough because in order to test this one thing, and you know what? Maybe we'll say, oh shit, no, we can't. The only way to test this is to build it and deploy it with Love.js, because we need to register the touch inputs. So this is just a pain, and this is what I think is going to suck the most about rehauling the input system is the back and forth for testing on mobile. It's just going to be a lot of work to make, you know, every time we make one little change, we have to rebuild it, redeploy it, and then test it on the phone. So it's going to be a lot. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is A. Cool. Let's try this. Let's make sure it plays and doesn't break. Yeah. And then we'll commit oops. Okay. And then we'll push. Then we'll try to deploy it. We won't do it to the website just yet. We'll test it on the local web server first, and then we'll see. So let's go do that. So the first thing I like to do is just remove the old one that's in there so we don't accidentally build with that one. And we will git pull our changes. What is going on? Like, what did I change? Scale factor. Okay. We'll change our scale factor to true, and we'll become false on full screen from the deployment. I forgot to change that, but we'll git stash our changes so it'll allow us to pull, and then we'll change those two things. So that should be the sound file that we just got upon pressing an A, and then we'll make sure we go and change those two things, which is our full screen to be set to false and the scale factor to be set to 2. Okay. So if we run it here, it looks right. We're not detecting the touch. So what we have to do is build it with Love.js so we can deploy it for touch devices. So we'll just go. We need to take actually the first thing we got to do is zip it as an executable. So we'll say zip tac9 tac-r mobile.love period to say zip it in the current folder, and then it'll be right here, mobile.love. We'll copy it, we'll go to our Love.js, we'll paste it to our Love.js, then we will go into our Love.js folder and make sure our mobile love is here, which it is. Then all we have to do is love JS mobile.love, and we'll call it Tashio Web Sound because we're testing sound, right? And then we've got Tashio Web Sound. Let's cd into our Tashio Web Sound, and we will run our Python HTTP server to test it on our phone here. So that whole process took what, like 2 minutes to maybe test it on mobile here. So let's see if it worked. So we'll go to our IP address and 8000 port. Okay. Oh my gosh. It worked. There's that nasty sound I was talking about. I can't believe that's working. I cannot believe that's working on mobile. That's really cool. That's the I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's... Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's like, it's playing 60 times a second when I hold it down. Yeah. But sound is working. Sound is working on mobile. That's huge. That's really cool. Okay. See, and then this is like, without the deployment, this is what the Love.js initial index HTML and CSS looks like, which has a button for full screen that doesn't work, and it gets in the way of pressing stuff. So if we were to deploy it again on the other, I guess we'll do that. Let's just go ahead and deploy it to the real website real quick. It'll be nasty because if you hold A, it sounds nasty, but at least I can then test it on a couple different devices and see if it works on my Android tablet, see if it works on, you know, different browsers and stuff. So I think it's good to deploy it. So we'll go to Tashio Web Sound and we'll copy our 4 files we need. And we actually need 5 files. We actually need the new compiled.love. So we'll put that in there too, and we'll copy all of these. And then we'll go to our deployment folder, which I thought I had just put here. Right here. We'll paste it in here. Place, replace, replace. And then redeploy it to the website. So all of these we got to deploy. Okay, failed. Okay, we could try the old RMRF. If we go into our website folder here, go into the productions, this is on the server. We go into our folder here. Let's just remove everything, yeah? Then redeploy. Okay. So, Katron, I just rent a little Ubuntu server off of Vultr, and that's just where I'm doing all my deployments. But it's just Ubuntu 22.04 server, and you know, it's not my home server, but it's my server I rent from the cloud. But we just got it deployed there, so let's see if we're working. it looks like it's working. So I can test it on my phone now and maybe see if the sound is working on the deployment. Yeah. You guys hear it? This is huge. This is huge. This is the one thing I didn't actually think about before I committed to doing the Game Boy build. But the fact that audio is working on mobile, it'll be working on desktop too. It's just that we don't have triggers for it because it's upon touch detection. It works. It works on. I know it works because if you go walk one screen to the right and use your spacebar to cast spells on the geckos, the sound does come through. So it works on desktop and mobile. So I think I'm totally happy moving forward with the game as usual, except we'll rehaul the inputs so that it'll work with 8 directions, 4 D-pad inputs plus directions or diagonals, and then an A and B button and a start and select button. So the start would be like pause and save and menu settings and stuff. And then I guess select would be, or maybe select is like start and save, and then start is, or what am I saying? Select is, save and options, and then start is your inventory, so that you can, change which elements you're carrying for spellcasting, or see how many, inventory you got, and then, wow, this is huge. I love it. And then whenever we make decent progress, instead of having to go through a whole build system on GitHub and doing a tagged release and building all the executables for Mac, Windows, and Linux, all I got to do is just deploy it to the server right here, and then it's live on mobile and desktop, which is really sick. Oh, it's really cool. Yeah, I'm stoked about that. So I'll call it a night here. Tomorrow we might be trying to do... we might be trying to fix this audio so that we only play a slam once, right? Like, we kind of need the old method of doing it. Love outside the, right out the box, allows you to set looping, and then it'll only play again if the sound isn't already playing. So, yeah. And so, Katron, it'll probably be, I'm house sitting for a friend for like 10 days coming up here soon, and I won't have my whole setup. I'll be streaming when I'm over there. We'll probably be doing the rehauling of the input system when I'm over there, because we don't really need this fancy setup for mobile. Well, I don't know. I'll bring my laptop too. I don't know, but it's gonna be a little while. My mind is telling me it's gonna take a week, so it's probably actually gonna take 2 weeks or 3. But it'll be so sweet. It'll be so sweet. Then anyone can play it, on the website. Like, that's going to be so sick. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. Let's see if we can raid out to somebody here who's doing some game dev stuff. Yeah, in Love.js, of course. Of course, gotta love JS. Doomfish is streaming again. Maybe we raid him again. All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I appreciate y'all being here. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll try to get either fixing the sound or I don't think we're going to be starting the input rehaul tomorrow, but maybe fixing the sound and maybe testing some other stuff we didn't think about for the mobile deployment. But yeah, have a good night, Katron. Thanks for tuning in, man. I'll catch you later. Yeah, have a good night, everyone.